again, Ian. And as the saying goes, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. You brought the Washburn in. Unwrap the sweet for me, please.
The Washburn's 1981 Heritage. It wasn't the first one that I bought. I had one earlier that same year and had to sell it. I was doing my degree, didn't have any money. And then I immediately regretted it. So I thought about it, what can I do? I managed to get some money back. And I went to Coventry Music Centre where I'd actually bought the guitars. And they were great, right on the edge of where the campus was. And I saw the lady there. I said, I really need to get one. Can you get me one? She said, I don't know. There's only a handful came into the country. So can you come back later in the week? And I did. And she said, we've got this one. It's the only one. But she said, it's not got a number on it. It's a sample. So the samples, as you'd appreciate, when these are sent out to potential buyers in different countries, etc. I think initially they only went to the UK and America. And fortunately, it came my way.
Got a beautiful neck on it, to be fair.
Yeah, it's called the A20 V Stage, and V is to do with the line of the neck, which, if I turn it over, you can see it has like a V format.
It is, yeah, very nice.
So, as a rock guitar, it's probably the best rock guitar I've ever played.
Yeah.
Because in different styles, you know, you do plenty of slow playing, you do medium pace. But in new wave of British heavy metal, it's a very intense sound. It's at times very aggressive in the guitar work. And when you're developing how you play your guitar, there's certain things the V-shaped neck allows you to do. And one is to drop the heel of your hand off and just run with your fingers.
Yeah.
And use that as a guide. And it allows you to get a really high pace of playing. And I'll run through some licks later on and give you an idea. But
well, I'm glad you are, because I've always wondered, how the hell does he do that with his fingers so quick and all that, you know? So, I mean, you're giving us some tips out now.
Well, it's a lot to do with attitude as well. If you cast your mind back to the beginning of the new wave of British heavy metal, we just came out of the punk era. No jobs around. Everybody's like anxious and angry. And so a lot of guitar players, myself included, and my brother, we would attack the keyboard is probably the best description. And when I did work with Chris Tangarides on the song Very Soon Everyone's Leaving by discussion, Chris said there's a lot of venom in your playing. And in fact, yeah, certainly on that track, but on other tracks as well, if you're going to get that emotion across, if you're going to drive through at speed, you've got to put the anger in there, you've got to put the aggression in there.
Get that, but to me it's very cultured. Everything you seem to do with guitar playing is very, very cultured, and the noise that you're getting out of your guitars is something, well, me as a metalhead, is something very, very special, you know.
Well, I could hand this guitar and my setup to a range of different guitar players and we would all sound different. And I got that lesson put across to me when I was in my early 20s, band was just starting to get going, and I had a basic setup when I was doing my degree. And one of the lads down the corridor was a very well established guitar player. Oh, I like what you got there, Ian. Came in and did it, switched around a few things. I never sounded like that. It sounded amazing. And then when he went away again, I didn't sound like that either.
But to be fair, Ian, the amount of people that, you know, when we talk about your music to other people in the music business, you say it's got a style of his own, and you certainly have, and it's a cool style that you have.
Thank you. Well, Twan van Poorten, who's a friend from Holland, he's always asked me one thing, and he said, I understand I'm going to get the fast stuff, but he said, how do you do it? How do you break that into like the bending and the vibrato, etc., and then kick off straight away? And I said, well, I guess it comes from within. It's just my personality.
It's the skill that you were born with. Just touch on a couple of things here. You know, the dials here. I mean, for somebody that's just an air guitarist, I noticed on the other guitar there was only one. Now there's four. Yeah,
and these are split coils as well. So each of these pickups has their own tone control. DiMarzio's. On here we've got like a surface mount Kahler, and here we've got a Templar Cross. I'm liking the Templar Cross. There's a little bit of story behind that. Yeah, I was out for a walk in the countryside one day, and a little bit of a flash caught my eye, and I looked down, and it was like a little pendant. The top was taken off by Ian Beck-Maluthia, and I didn't choose the position on the guitar. I just said, can you fit it to the guitar? And Ian put it there, and it's quite a prominent position. I mean, you might have thought about it there, I guess, or down there, but there it stands alone, and I guess that's why Ian placed there, and it does catch your eye being in isolation. It certainly caught my eye. Something has caught my eye today, and quite special, because I do like the scream. Your guitar strap,
Now that is quality, and if I could buy that off you, I would buy that off you, but I can't play guitar, so it can stay with you. But there's a good story behind that.
Yeah, there's the scream. Obviously that's from the Invaders cover. There was a manipulation on that to convey the scream. And I was out in Japan, and I was out there I went over to do a guest spot with a band called Gorgon, and flew out to Japan, stayed in the Ginza area, which is the business area. So the Japanese, bless them, all very formal, very sombre, got a great hotel, and so there's a procession of guys in grey suits, grey ties, white shirts, and the ladies are just the same, midi-length dresses, grey, except one guy, and he had a tie which was almost exactly like that. Unbelievable, and it just hit me like a rocket that, you should be in Japan. It was like a confirmation.
Yes.
You should be playing with this band.
Yeah.
But that was the only one in the guitar shop, and I've looked and looked and looked. I've never seen another one since.
Just touching on what you said about Invaders there, I'll tell you now, the riff for Invaders is probably my favourite, to be fair, Ian. It's superb.
Thank you.
Stands the test of time.
It's my ringtone, as we've talked about, and that was written on here.
Yeah.
I was looking for an anthem, something very anthemic, something which really catches your attention. And I was working on a contract a couple of years ago, and people leave the phones on the desk. You don't really expect them to ring. And it went off one day, and like, what's that?
Cool.
So, okay, fine.
Love it,
And
yeah.
I explained. And then a day or two later, it went off again. I came back into the room, and one of the people sat near me said, "Oh, the drums kicked in this time." So obviously just let it ring out and go to the voicemail. But in the Invaders, we needed something big for that album. If you're going to call the album Invaders, the song has to be big, the riff has to be big. And thankfully, that moment came.
And there's so many people out there that always refer back to the Invaders period. Absolutely fantastic. But I will say, I'm going to throw a couple of questions into you now. Just regards the three guitars that you brought in today, put you on the spot, which is your favourite?
This is the go-to guitar.
That's the go-to guitar.
This is the guitar which acts like I would say almost like a conduit.
Yeah.
And people have different belief systems. People look at life in different ways, and some people remain programmed and don't see what's happening. When I wrote the Rapture album, every time I picked this guitar up, something came in from the ether, and that became a song. Invaders, not dissimilar. And so with that in mind, and the fact you mentioned about they get a hard life, the guitars. On stage, this guitar gets hammered. It really gets hammered. Steve, our drummer, I wouldn't want to be his drum kit. Well, you wouldn't want to be my guitars.
But again, you can liken that into the videos that I watch. When you see Steve perform on the drums and all that, fantastic. Then you see you on the guitar. I mean, listen, what you've got as a group of musicians, Ian, is absolutely fantastic. And again, for me as a metalhead, and I'll always say it, like a kid in a candy shop. Listening to the stuff that you're putting out.
Thank you very much. And, with the guitar in mind, it's been used on recordings with Chris Tangarides. The PRS is a beautiful, make no mistake, is a beautiful guitar, and it had its place on those albums. But in terms of guitar lead work, every time it's this guitar.
And just to finish off, Ian, as I would, hopes for the future. Anything on the horizon? Anything about to happen?
Yeah, Steve and I had a rehearsal a couple of weeks ago, and we are as good as complete on a new song.
Oh, this is great news. This is great
I'm very
news.
pleased with it.
Yeah.
And it was just like the old days when we'd get together at a rehearsal, etc. A lot of stuff I do write in isolation, and it's the same with Steve and Dave, and then we bring it together as a band. And we're very, very fortunate that although we are very committed and very intense about what we do musically, there's no ego. The only ego that exists is that whatever that product is, it's the best that we collectively can put together. And there's been times at Chris's where we've actually got some backing tracks down, or it's moving along, and it's been like, you know what, that just isn't working. Straight in the bin. And the first time we did that with Chris, I don't think he believed it. But yeah, and then we literally just move on, because if it's not working now, however much time you spend, it ain't going to happen. So you've got to let it go.
It's been great to get to know you over the last few months as a band and individuals, and I've got to say, no ego whatsoever. And again, the music that you're putting out is superb, and hopefully, fingers crossed, your next stage of your career will be even better. And let's face it, without a doubt, it will be. Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure as usual to see you. It really has. I mean, I get hairs at the back of my neck, because to me, you're a bit of a rock star.
Oh,
You
that's
are a
kind
rock
of you,
star to
thank
me.
you.
I grew up listening to Bitches Sin. Here we are now talking about your 3 guitars. I can't wait to go and watch you shredding very, very shortly.
Yeah.
Ian,
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Tony.
See you soon.
Yeah.
So Ian, early days, now I've been a fan from the early 80s, from that initial demo tape that came out, and I managed to get hold of that, and it was like I had a prize at school, and I've followed you from them days to this day now. But the superlatives that you put out all these years, and of course within 2 years of putting that demo tape out, you were on the Friday Rock Show. But we go from there and we get to here. You've had a fantastic career which will continue, but it's been done without a major record label, which makes it even more special.
It's interesting. We did flirt very briefly with inverted commas record companies, but they were really more focused on how it was going to work for them. And if you're going to develop talent like the major record companies do, then there's an investment required which wasn't there. So I thought, well, you know, make my own investment. Why would I invest in them if they're not prepared to invest in me? So early on we made the decision, okay, we'll go our own way. Couldn't have been that bad. We got the Friday Rock Show out of it.
Absolutely.
We were voted Band of the Year in Aardschok. We had top of 12 Commandments in metal. We opened up the album, and so that encouraged me to think, you know what, I'm just going to stay with this and see where it takes me. Not long after that, we were doing 1 or 2 albums which we released ourselves, had the gap, as we've talked about, and then all of a sudden, the internet arrives. And you don't need to be in a major record label.
No, listen, you've developed yourself, you've put your own personal finance into it. Your CDs, everything you've done stands up perfectly, and you've got to be very proud of what you've actually done, the way you've developed over the years to stay with new waves of British heavy metal, but to develop as well with the different genres of metal to get to this point. It's been a fantastic story, Ian.
Thank you, and it's been a fantastic journey. In life, you shouldn't be standing still. You know, it's not 1980 anymore. You know, we're not with long hair, dressed, and you know, it's a whole different world. But on that journey through life, you should always grow. If you're locked into a particular period of time and you don't absorb the good influences around you, then really, what are you doing? So we found ourselves with Chris Tangarides, and in that moment, for those 10 or 11 years, we grew a lot with Chris and we learned a lot. Then after Chris's demise, we started working with Lowell Cooper and Ben Warrington doing on videos. And so that's yet another step where they've taken our music into a visual presentation, which is amazing. But all the time running in the background is our presence on Spotify, CD Baby, etc., who have been absolutely fantastic.
And as you've said there with Chris Tangarides, and of course now with Ben and Lowell, you've always used the elite people at the top of their game to be able to work with, and it really shows, it really does. But for a fan, for me, I know that the story is going to continue.
It is going to continue, which I found surprising going back 2-3 weeks. But maybe the book isn't completely written yet. I picked the guitar up, as I said I would, and it was just like, well, yeah, this is what you should be doing. And
I am waiting, and I'm going to pester for something new. Absolutely superb.